in last 10 years journey, I think some of the highlights, if I have to give you, which were kind of game changing, starting with getting it regulated and allowing a non-bank, and mind you, when I say non-bank, I'm excluding even NBFCs, to be part of a regulated system was a very big milestone decision. That itself was a very big decision by the RBI and giving that trust and stamp on the industry. So started with that. From there it moved into creating multiple type of wallets, including like a mobile wallet, way back. So mobile wallets, what you see today, were well conceived at the time of first guidelines itself. So again, that's a visionary kind of a thing that happened. Another milestone thing happened when the guidelines allowed these wallets to be used for remittances. So you saw again a huge growth from a complete different set of people who were informally sending money from the metros to their hometown. So again, you saw a huge growth. Then there are many such things that have happened, but fundamentally around remittances, around POS. So if you see the culmination on the whole, an industry which was about 2-3% digital has taken the digital to about close to 10%. About 35%, 33-34% CAGR growth for our entire tenure. Some years were like 50-60%, some years were about 20-30%. Obviously it is when any new set of changes come in, it takes some time to absorb. Now what has happened is with all of this, today if you see our country in a payments, there are some unique things that our country has. The infrastructure is created for the digital economy for our payments and a real-time basis, things like IMPS, things like UPI. I think the platform is set. What we really need to do is make it interoperable, allow everybody to participate. That is what will accelerate this 20-30% growth to straight 50-100% growth. So far, all our regulations are either product-based, insurance ke liye hai, or it is like mutual fund. So all product-based or payments, or it is based on entity. Acha, aap NBFC ho, you are bank, you are a non-bank. Within non-bank, you can do only this. So how do we change that and say, okay, you are a payment institution or a fintech institution. Here is like a charter. If you follow these principles, you are allowed to do these 5 activities. If you follow these additional principles, you are allowed now these 10 activities. If you follow these additional 20 principles, so it's like a typical software upgrade plan where the whole regulation is a set of principles. Rather than regulating the processes, the details that how the processes happen. So if you start regulating those aspects, then it becomes highly difficult for a newer innovation to fit into there. And it becomes hugely conflicting. So somewhere the regulation has to be a very simple set of principles, which could be 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. Those who follow it, whoever they are, they should be allowed then the full access to the entire fintech regime. And that is what will create a huge growth for our system. So we are saying that the regulation should be risk-based. One is that we definitely need certain sandbox environment where digital products, pure play digital products can be tested. But I think we'll have to up the ante a lot more because that's actually been a one step and a lot of countries have already done, we're already behind. Beyond this, we might need some special fintech zones, which also allows, let's say, entities and those zones to even do things in a physical environment. Let's say you have a smart city zone where you want to roll out a product which does seamlessly everything in a very completely different way, including, let's say, a cryptocurrency or a blockchain. Now that zone has to be excluded and insulated from all existing regulations, principles. But at the same time, you want to do it in a control. So I think while we are still struggling with the sandbox, parallelly we'll have to start thinking about carving out or encouraging states to create certain specific zones. Those centers will need to be given specific cities, centers, location where there are real consumers, real businesses, real participants who can interact with each other without fearing that are we violating existing principles. But at the same time, it is in a controlled and informed economy. So if something goes wrong, it can be easily controlled, contained and informed immediately to the regulators. So I think we'll need both together. PCI, I think, has always looked at working closely with government and regulator to deliver a cashless society or a less cash society. Right? There are continuous work that we've been doing with them to achieve that goal. So if we are able to achieve the digitization faster, the industry participants also benefit, the economy also benefit, the objective of both government and regulators are achieved. Now while that is happening, we are also seeing the similar issues existing in every other area of financial services, be it insurance, be it mutual fund, be it credit. So we now have a fintech group. And we believe that eventually the same issues that we are looking in payments exist in all these areas. So our priority is to work with government and regulators to create a converged framework, because ultimately you're going to the same set of our consumers who needs all of this. Consumer is one, and eventually all these entities will not be just doing one service, only payments or only credit. Eventually they will all coexist. So we are working with all set of our players and the regulators and the government to create that common converged platform, which is covering entire BFSI. So that's how you're seeing that what was traditionally just the payment ecosystem, non-bank, moved to a non-bank payment entities plus payment bank. If you keep Fintech as a generic term, including all of them, then you don't have a one number, because each of them are growing at very different. So you have to take them differently. So if you take for an example payments, if they were growing at 30 to 40%, I think there's a scope for them to easily grow at 50-60% in next 10 years. And it has to be that much. I believe they can continue this growth if some of the regulatory regime and policies are done in a right way. And I expect this to continue in the other areas of mutual fund, or let's say any other area of insurance. Again, insurance, if you divide from a general and life, probably general can rapidly grow, followed by life. So we believe that the growth in a fintech, what is existing in 2 to 3x, can be taken to 4 to 6x on a sustainable basis with the right framework. And that is what our goal will be. I think we are in a bit of a funny situation. There are countries like Pakistan in some areas ahead of us. There are countries like US in some areas, they are behind us when it comes to real-time money transfer. So there are areas where we are ahead, there are areas we are lagging behind. But if you look at from economic indicators, I think we are grossly behind by most of emerging developing economies. And the difference will be at least easily 2 to 3x. If we compare with our China, which is our, let's say, an economic framework, a kind of a competitor, I think we are hugely behind. We are at least behind by a decade. And I think we need to make sure that in this decade we reach closer to them. In terms of penetration, whether it's come to payments, whether it's come to POS, whether it's come to lending, whether it comes to investment.